Is the Netduma R3 Router your solution to better connections and easier lobbies in Warzone? Let's find out. Netduma sent me a Netduma R3 Router for free to test, but this is not a sponsored video. All I asked for is an honest review, so that's what I'm going to do. The router itself is currently £180, and here's what you get in the box. So opening the box, we've got immediately a little note from the Netduma team that says, "Hi Tom, we hope you're going to like the R3 as much as we do. We are looking forward to your review. Best regards, Netduma team," and a smiley face. Full transparency, that's my communication with them, I guess. Right, in here we've got a normal UK plug. Then we get a Cat 6 Ethernet cable. And then the router itself. There we go. So we've got the router there. That's what it looks like. And you see it's got loads and loads of like status lights on the front. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm guessing is the Ethernet ports on the back. And then also, I'm guessing that's the internet connection, is WPS on, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, USB connection by the looks of it. And then also the power as well. And then on the back, all the standard stuff you'd expect. So you've got the 4 Ethernet ports, the one that you put your actual internet going into. And then you've also got WPS and 4 aerials. And the aerials are just here. So they just thread into it. That's everything you get in the box. So let's take a look at the software. This is the dashboard that you get. It's called Duma OS, and you can get to it from an app on your phone, or you can get to it from a web browser, and it gives you a ton of information. So you can see on the right there, you can control the RGB on the device itself if you want to. You can see the usage of the router today, what's using it right now and over time, your current network speed, and there's this thing called the ping optimizer that kind of, when you set it up, it simulates a heavy load on your router and then tries to make sure your devices have the best possible connection, the best paths through. I'm not really sure how much this actually does. It just kind of gave me this number saying my ping was 34 milliseconds. No idea what that was pinged to, what server it was. And then it reduced it to 20 apparently. I haven't actually noticed a difference in game as a result of that. Then on the left, you can do the speed test or the ping optimizer again. You can turn on an ad blocker if you want, and you can actually do it by device. Obviously, I'm kind of against ad blockers since I get most of my income from ads on the internet. So please don't turn ad blocker on when you're looking at my content, because it does kind of just mean you get the content for free and I don't get paid at all. So that's an option. You also have device manager. You can do things like looking at all the devices connected, and then later on you can actually set priority and things like that, which can be really, really useful. Do make sure you set your device name. So on your Xboxes, on your PCs, you should be able to find an option for device name. Makes that much easier. You can get more details about your internet usage, and then you can also click on this Smart Boost thing, which basically lets you prioritize certain activities, and you can do it by device if you want. So basically, if there is congestion on your home network, like lots of people are doing lots of different things, it will prioritize certain things. So I have it set up to make sure it prioritizes streaming, to make sure my stream isn't affected by somebody else deciding to upload some photos to Instagram or something like that. It allows you to do quite a lot of fine-tuning. It's basically a QoS thing that people might have seen on other routers, but the interface for it is very nice, very easy to understand. My only hesitation with this is that it does only talk about streaming as being to do with Twitch. I don't think they include YouTube with that, which is a bit of a pain, and as far as I know, you can't change that. But this could be a useful feature of the router, particularly if you're living in a shared house where you've got lots of people doing a lot of things on the internet and some things are more important. This is the ping heat map. I find that really interesting. So just going back to that, you can choose a game and it will basically ping all of the servers it knows about for that game. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of a proviso there that if they set up new servers, it might take a while before it's updated. You can refresh their map of it, so I'm guessing it will get updated fairly quickly. But you can see here, these are all of the Warzone servers that Netduma know about, and it's pinged all of them, so I can kind of see what my connection would look like for each of these servers. I did find this really interesting that there's not many servers in quite big parts of the world, like Central America, North Africa, India. There don't seem to be any servers in India. Greece and Turkey, Italy. Seems really, really strange that sort of big areas of the world don't have any. But you can see there's a big cluster around Western Europe, which is where I'm located, and you can see there's a bunch in Eastern US and Western US, not so many in the middle, and there's like 1 down in South America. There's one in the Middle East in Saudi Arabia. There's a few. You can look at different games. So like I can click on there. Rainbow Six Siege surprised me that it has so few servers. Ubisoft seem to have very few. Like there's none in Australia at all, none in Africa, none in the Middle East. Seemed a bit strange to me. And then, you know, you look at something like Fortnite and obviously there's a lot more servers because Epic have servers all over the place for that. Still none in Africa, which again, slightly strange, in Central America. So you can look at all of these and it'll give you an idea of kind of what servers you're likely to be connecting to, which servers you should be expecting to connect to. For someone in my situation, we'll talk about this a bit more later, where you've got loads of servers fairly close to where you live, I think this might be a little bit less useful because you're probably already getting pretty good connections to them. So let's take a look at what I think might be the most interesting service for a lot of people, the Geo Filter. So you can set this up for a specific device and then a specific gaming service, or if you're doing it on console, it might say all console games. For some reason, sometimes when I added my Xbox, it said all games, and other times it said specifically, okay, this is just for Call of Duty or whatever, like you can choose it from a drop-down list. But there's a load of options here where you can set up basically how you want the router to try and block connections to servers that are outside of the region that you set. So you can choose this region. I've just kind of set it for the UK and Western Europe. So in theory, with this filter active, this would kind of stop me from connecting to the server that's in Madrid, for example. It would stop me from connecting to any of the Eastern European servers, and obviously the ones on the East Coast of America. Now, the reason I said earlier that this is maybe less useful for someone like me is that from my experience, and when you're connecting to games using this, you can actually see which servers the game is trying to connect to. When I'm playing normally, it just tries to connect to Amsterdam or London or France anyway. Like these are the servers that the game connects to because I live in a high population area. So Call of Duty doesn't really have any trouble connecting me to a decent server. Where this could be really useful is if you happen to live near a server that's quite close to you but has a low population and the game regularly says, okay, there's not enough people playing there, you've been waiting too long, we're going to put you on a server where you've got a high ping. So like people who live in Australia maybe, people who live in South America, people who live near Saudi Arabia, so in the Middle East, you could use this to make sure it only lets you connect to that local server, meaning that you'll only have games with a good connection at the cost of having to wait a little bit longer. But obviously that's not the only way people are going to use this geofilter. They're going to do this instead, where they change their home region to somewhere else, and you can just click somewhere on the map, or you can draw a specific polygon, a shape around the ones you want to connect to, and then it will force the game to only connect to those servers. So here I've done it to the East Coast of America. I was playing kind of early in the morning in the UK, so that would be even earlier in the morning on the East Coast of America. And the theory is that if you're playing somewhere where it's early morning, there's not many people playing, then you're likely to have less skill-based matchmaking because the game just can't find people of your skill. So you'll get more of a random selection, so you've got a chance of getting those bot lobbies, a chance of getting those easy lobbies. Of course, you've also got the problem that most of the people playing at like 3 or 4 in the morning on the East Coast of America are probably demons who have been up all night playing the game. That's the only thing they do. So you've got a decent chance of coming up against hard players too. While I was testing this, both on PC and Xbox, but it was worse on Xbox, I ran into an annoying problem that basically Call of Duty seems to store a list of the servers that you have a good connection to, and so when you set up this geofilter, it will just keep on insisting on connecting to the servers that it knows are good servers, and then your router keeps blocking them. So you kind of get trapped in this loop of your router trying every server it's connected to before. The solution was to restart the console, restart the game. If you do all of those things, it seemed to work a little bit better once it was all working again. So the first time I tried this on Xbox, it actually took 10 minutes before it started searching with a wider ping range, before it started searching for matches with less than 102 milliseconds instead of 36. And that's just because for me, there's so many servers in Europe that I can connect to with low ping, and the Xbox insisted on trying every one. Once it started broadening it a little bit, it started going a little bit faster, and it ended up going up to like 150 milliseconds ping before it finally found a game. And one thing I do really like is you did get that information now. I could see exactly which server I'd connected to in real time, I could see my connection to it, and it was like pretty much as soon as it found it in game, it was showing up on the router saying, okay, you're connecting to this is what the ping is. Weirdly, there was a ping chart on the router saying that I was connected to that server with like 20 millisecond ping, and there's no way I'm connecting to a server on the east coast of America with that kind of ping. In game, it would show me the accurate one, which was about 100 milliseconds or so. So the big question, were the games easier when I was connecting to these other servers? Basically, no. I tried a few East Coast games, so like I said, it was super early in the morning there. I also tried a game on the Saudi Arabian servers, so my latency was up to like 111 milliseconds, which does feel noticeable, but it's nowhere near as bad as people make out. Like, I think a lot of people are a bit spoiled with the fact that you often get games with like 20, 30 millisecond ping nowadays. When we used to play games in the early days, we used to think anything under 200 milliseconds was fine. But anyway, 100 milliseconds ping, you can notice there's a little bit of a delay, but it doesn't seem too bad. But the players I was coming up against, yeah, there would be some players who were a lot easier to kill, some players who didn't seem very good, but then there'd be other players who were absolute demons. There'd be loads of people who were running around with like 20 kills in a game of Rebirth Resurgence. Interestingly, when I was on the Saudi Arabian server, which is definitely a very sort of isolated server, but anyone from Europe would be able to connect to it with an okay ping, there were lots of people who weren't speaking in Arabic and didn't have Arabic-looking names, so I get the impression maybe there's a fair few people in Europe who take Call of Duty very seriously and are using devices like this or VPNs to try and connect to those servers. So if you're going to try and use this to get easier lobbies, you're probably going to find yourself coming up against other people who are doing the same thing. And some of them will be people who are really good at the game. They just want to get those crazy kill counts, so they're searching for easier players. Personally, I'd say for this usage case of just trying to find bot lobbies by using the geofencing, I definitely don't think this is worth it. It's not worth £180. Like, there's a bit of faff in setting up. It does a fairly annoying thing with your Xbox where, like I said earlier, it remembers the servers you've connected to. Even after I turned the geofiltering off, my Xbox was still trying to connect to US servers. So I had to do the same thing of restarting everything to try and get out of that. So if you want to then play with your friends, you've got a little bit of messing around to try and get away from it. And there's no guarantee you're going to get into easier servers. On a slightly more kind of moral viewpoint or perspective, I also think trying to get into servers where you're up against people who you shouldn't be playing against, you're just ruining their games. Like, that's probably not a great thing to do. You're better off just playing your own games, and if by some chance you happen to get into some easier lobbies just because the game is struggling to find lobbies at your time of day, fair enough. But if you're specifically manipulating the game to try and get easier lobbies, I'm not sure that's a great thing to be doing. And also, no one's going to be impressed if you get loads of kills, but you are playing against other players who have no chance against you. That's just stupid. That's like an Olympic weightlifter just going down to their local gym and showing off because they can beat everybody there. Nobody cares, and you just kind of look like a jerk. But it's important to note that that's not what Netduma are selling this router for. At no point are they advertising that you can get easier lobbies. The whole Geo Filter system is literally set up for you to put your home in it to try and make sure you only connect to servers near you. And for that, it definitely works. Like I said, for me personally, it's not much of a big deal because I tend to connect to pretty decent servers anyway. But if you're in one of those areas where you regularly get put in games where the latency is over 100 and there are servers near you that you could connect to if you could just wait a little bit longer, then this is perfect. This will definitely do the job. And that leads me on to my conclusion about this router overall. If you're buying this, you're probably the sort of person that has a specific networking problem that you want to solve. Either you've got a ton of devices and a load of people using them on your network, and you want to have that fine control over QoS settings, you want to be able to choose certain devices and certain activities to get priority on the network. It definitely does that. It's great. The ping stabilizer thing, I'm not really 100% sure how much of an effect it's having. My ping didn't seem to reduce when I was playing on local servers. You can do a thing where it says it's going to stabilize it, and when I use that, your ping does increase slightly, but only by single digits. And I have to say, I didn't have any hitches or lags or anything like that I would normally get in Warzone, so it seems like it probably is doing something. Maybe somehow it's making the connection smoother, but I don't really understand how. And the geo filtering will be very, very useful if you're in that specific situation that I talked about earlier. But if you're just a normal Warzone player living in Western Europe or on the East or West Coast of America, and you're just trying to buy something that will give you easier lobbies, I probably wouldn't bother. £180 is quite a lot of money, and I just don't think it's going to do what you think it's going to do. It's not going to suddenly make you amazing at Warzone. You could just stick with your normal ISP's router, and you'll get the same connection, and you've probably got the same chance of coming up against good or bad players in any given game. This is a very useful tool to solve problems for people who have a slightly awkward internet connection and want to play games, and for that, it's fantastic. So let me know if you have any other questions about the router, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't do that many hardware reviews, so I always appreciate any feedback on them. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.